Hi.
Hi.
So, this is my 12th year. It's been a long time. How many people are this your first time? So, I come and I do this all the time, and my husband said to me last night, he said, "What are you going to talk about?" "What do you mean, what am I going to talk about? I never planned what I'm going to talk about." I said, "Well, you've been doing this a long time, and I think we've heard the same story 4 or 5 times. It's probably about time you told a different one." I don't know what story that is, so I think I'm going to take the advice of my friend Dan and tell you all about my photography. I like to take pictures of pretty things. Okay. So I love coming to this show, and I've made some friends here that are, for the rest of my life, my best friends. And even outside of here, on the forums, I have a Facebook page. All of you message me and email me, and I love hearing from you. Tonight, I had a gentleman tell me the story about when he started saving for his car when he was 7. I cried. The story of the first time he got his car, I come here and I love hearing what my dad means to all of you. And I try and find an anecdote or something interesting that y'all haven't heard before. After 12 years, I've pretty much run out of them. But I was at Epcot today, and I was going through watching where they talk about the plants that they grow. And an interesting story I have about my dad that I don't think anybody has heard yet, at least I hope not. Right before he passed away, a couple years before, we were sitting on the couch and talking. And he was telling me about this plan he had for Mexico. He was very distraught over the fact that a lot of our manufacturing was moving over the border so that they could bypass a lot of the EPA laws and things like that. And he said, well, if they would just help Mexico become less than a third world country, they would have enough money to not support this kind of thing, and also the people would be much better off, and it would benefit everyone. And he showed me this plan that he had. He had actually organized the whole thing. He had worked it out with John Deere to donate all of the equipment, and he had found people to donate the land, and his idea was the climate was perfect in Mexico to turn it into an agricultural, I don't want to say superpower, but they could grow their own products there and actually pull themselves out of being a third world country. And he had spoken to everyone. He had gotten the whole plan taken care of. They had donated everything. People were willing to donate land, time, seeds, equipment, everything. And he had a 10-year business plan for how this would help Mexico become, come out of the third world. When it came down to it, it didn't happen because the Mexican government said, okay, you need to pay us, some ridiculous amount of money, and then we'll let you do it. Lacking forethought of saying, well, hey, if our country is actually making all this money, it'll end up in our pockets as well. He spent a lot of his time and effort on that. And it was something that had no financial benefit to him whatsoever. It wasn't something that he was going to be able to save his house or, go out to dinner or make any money on it. He just really cared about the bigger picture. And I think it's a great story of the kind of person that my dad is. And I just wanted to share that with all of you. I hope that's a story none of you have heard before. But since there's so many new faces, I do want to tell the story of my first car show briefly. I had been invited to a GTO show, and I'm pretty much a car buff. And I went because I love muscle cars and I love GTOs. And It was this very small, intimate little gathering in New Jersey, and they asked me if I would speak. And I had never been to a car show before. And when the car show was over, and we were all sitting down to dinner, they introduced me. And they said, we have a special guest, it's Kathryn DeLorean. And in unison, the entire room goes, oh! And all of a sudden, I'm standing there completely naked, standing in front of a whole bunch of people, completely immersed. Yes, it was mortifying. But it was also amazing. The response that I got from the people who were there, the adoration, the love. I went home to my father and I said, you have to go. You have to see what you mean to these people. And fortunately for Ken, he contacted me shortly after that happened, and I said, this is great, this is a car show, it's back home in Ohio, we can see your family, and the rest is history, I guess. And I want to thank all of you for keeping the dream alive. This show means so much to me. As my husband said, those of you who were here last night, it really is about my father's legend. And the things that you tell me, coming to these shows is such a joy for me, because I love to hear about just how much he means to all of you. And I thank you all for letting him be such an influence in your lives. And I think that's it, because I'm going to cry now. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask before we leave?
Share the story about you and your dad hiding in the garage.
But that's the one story that he told me I said 4 times.
But most people haven't heard.
Okay. My dad lived in a little town in Bedminster, and there's not very many people who live there. And he had a banana yellow at NSX. And we lived on dirt roads everywhere. So you can imagine that it's the only banana yellow NSX for many miles around. And one night we're coming home from wherever we were for dinner that night. He's going way too fast. Which one? And the cops light him up. And we're on some little back road. It wasn't a dirt road at this time, but it was some little back road called River Road. For any of you who are in New Jersey and want to go check it out. It's at night. He turns off his lights. And this little crickety back road, and drives home at about 140 miles an hour. We get home, and he goes into his garage, and he shuts the door, and says, shh, don't say anything. And of course they pull up, and they knock on the door, and they say, Mr. DeLorean, we know it was you. And he says, don't say anything, shh, don't say anything. And he waited them out, because they didn't catch him behind the wheel of the car, and just because he's the only one with a banana yellow NSX for probably 50-mile radius doesn't mean much. So he didn't get the ticket, but apparently it's a great story.
Well, that does it for this evening. We'll see some of you back here tomorrow. We do have to ask, however, that everybody clear the room.